Did we have a show of hands, Eva, on the Formula One fans today? Are there any in the audience? Don't worry if you're not, it's not going to be a nerdy session. And the setup was perfect, and you can see those words that Eva and Sylvia were just talking about around precision, perspective, decisiveness, speed. And we're going to really pick up on that theme, as she said, around how do we think about our talent strategy in a world that is changing so fast around us, and a world where actually the humans are going to be our competitive advantage as companies in the future. It's a pleasure to be here, so thank you very much, ABSL, for having me and giving me the opportunity to inspire you ahead of 5 amazing presentations from companies on how they are embracing the future of work and the future of talent. So when we think about speed, I don't know if you've seen this quote before, but Justin Trudeau, this quote really got me when he first said this at Davos. The pace of change has never been this fast, but it'll never be this slow again. We have to build workforces, strategies that are going to embrace the fact that we think things are moving fast. Guess what? They're going to move even faster in the future. And I think we need to just think about that moment to go, we're not just in this today and dealing with large language models and agentic AI solutions. It's going to go faster and faster as the world continues. 40% of employees who responded to the Mercer Global Talent Trends survey, Global Talent Trends survey this year, said the number one fear around the future of work is having their job disrupted by AI and automation. So if 40% of your workforce are thinking that way, you need to do something to make sure that we're supporting them and keeping them relevant to the work you do and to the employment market. So we are going to do that analogy. Someone steal my idea yesterday. I think that's terrible. But in the 60s, a pit stop in Formula One took over a minute to complete. And I think, the record is below 2 seconds now to do a pit stop. You could say the work is broadly the same, but the way the work is done and the pace of which it occurs at is dramatically different. And we need to evolve our talent strategies to make sure that we can keep up with that pace of change. I'm going to attempt this analogy throughout the session, and we're going to start back in 2008. I think ABSL, someone's got to fact check me now, is about a year old in 2008, something like that. Obviously, the financial crisis had changed the world, and people and organizations were looking at how do we set up shared services, GBS functions around the world. And Poland became an amazing destination of investment to set up these facilities and to drive their strategies to drive out cost, but also deliver amazing services to their people and customers. And in 2008, Robert Kubica won the Canadian Grand Prix, the Polish Formula One driver. That was a hangover response. Should we try again? But in 2008, the world of Formula One was very much based around a few top talent, the driver, the designer. They wanted to make sure every team had the best drivers in their cars, had the best designer of their cars. They thought about those high performers, as we were thinking about in our talent strategy, those few people at the top of our organization from a performance perspective that were critical and driving value. So we had talent strategies thinking about just the high performers. And what also happened in Formula One is they had a load of data, but actually a lot of decisions that they made during a race were the gut decisions of the people on the pit wall, the people who were saying when to come in for a pit stop or when to change something around their strategy. And I think we lived in 2008. You're probably all too young to remember 2008, you have to check. But you lived in 2008. Yeah, we had data in HR, but we still made a huge amount of talent decisions based on our gut feel and how we thought about what the right decisions are. We were professionalizing everything, but a bit like our pit stops in Formula One, we did a lot of things predictably and in cycles. So the pit stop in Formula One was predicated by how much fuel they put in the car. So everyone knew when it needed to come in because it was going to run out of fuel. And it took 20 people 5.5 seconds. We lived in annual performance management cycles. We lived in cycles of pushing learning out on an annual basis or 6-monthly basis. Hopefully not always recognizing that today in your organization, that things have moved on. But it was about how do we do things predictably, efficiently, and effectively, rather than driving that whole organizational performance from a HR and talent perspective. So execution excellence was important, but we were focusing on those high performers in 2008. If we fast forward to 2025, the world of Formula One has changed because of rules and because of constraints. The biggest constraint on Formula One, and this might feel like your organizations as well today, was the cost cap. No longer could the big manufacturers spend unlimited amount of money on designing cars and hiring people. They had to constrain their costs the same as every other team. And that drove a shift in how they had to think about their talent, because they now need to optimize the whole organization. It wasn't just about the driver or the designer. It was about every single individual operating at a really high performance as they struggle to get an extra 100th of a second performance on the track. And I think that is the analogy of where we are today in our talent strategies. We are thinking about the whole organization. How do we get every human to perform and be the best they possibly can in our businesses? And in Formula One as well, the work had started to change. There was no refueling in the pit stop. So the team had to become more agile and adaptive. The tire wear became the one thing that determined when cars were coming in, as well as what was happening in the race. And I think we've had to get far more agile and adaptive in terms of the way we think about our talent strategies. And we're not going to just run cycles anymore. Back to my performance management example, it's pulses, it's all the time, it's an always-on activity that we're now having with our people to help them develop and help them drive their careers forward. So the work's changed. We now need to start thinking about the future. And in the future, the formula might have to change. And my analogy now is a different race series called Formula E, which is fully electric and uses all the cutting-edge technology which is now appearing on cars in the world to drive a race series. And Formula E is growing faster in popularity than Formula One, so it's starting to disrupt. Are we going to get disrupted as well as companies through our technology, through what's happening? Shared service centers, GBS, capability centers, you use the term that you like, is shifting as well. We're using technology to change the way work gets done. And the capabilities of your people are that strong asset that's going to be able to keep value and drive things forward. So in Formula E, they don't even have pit stops. This is now a team of engineers looking at data through their computers, making changes to the car, making decisions in real time, not waiting for the car to come in for a pit stop to do a change, not waiting for a signal to happen in the market and suddenly they need to change, or a signal to happen in the race. They're doing it all in real time. And that's where we're going to have to get to with our talent strategies. Back to Justin's quote, pace of change, it's only going to get faster. We're going to have to continuously sense and respond as to what's happening externally and internally to make sure that we're ready to support our people and drive our business success. And I think differentiation in our world of talent is going to be how do we think about that personalization and help people own their careers and help people own their skills to really make sure they can stay relevant as the work keeps getting redesigned and keeps changing. So how do we go from Formula One to Formula E in terms of the future of our talent strategy? So I've got 3 things that I think we should focus on, and these are kind of the themes that are going to come through the great presentations afterwards as well. So the first thing is this concept of the redesigning work. Let's not throw technology at a process designed for humans. Let's think about what is the work we're trying to do? What's going to drive an outcome for our customers and our clients? How do we design the optimal combination of human and technology? There's a lot of pressure to drive cost out by throwing technology, but actually to get the right outcome and create more value, we often need to think about what's the optimal combination of the two. How do we augment the humans rather than just try and replace what they're doing? And we need to measure the impact. As we deploy technology, we create new work. And actually, if we create productivity, we have an opportunity to design new work that's going to add more value and more meaning for our employees and for our customers. So when you see that 20 to 30%, 50% productivity gain through implementing agentic AI, think about what else you could do rather than it's always, this is a reduction in our workforce. And then finally, we have to link this story together. We've got to get ahead of the IT wave of technology changes coming, because it's going to take us time to reskill and upskill and cross-skill our people into this new world of work, into these new tasks that we're creating. So we need to make sure as leaders, we are understanding this picture and building the infrastructure and the continuous learning to enable people to thrive in the future world. The second thing is this notion of using skills as the currency. Skills of how we understand work and skills of how we understand our workforce. So reimagine your employees' experience with skills. I don't know whether you've got an Oracle or a Workday or a SuccessFactors or one of these other technology products in the market, but they all are centering their AI around the notion of, well, I can see skills of a person, I can see skills attached to learning or to an opportunity, a position in the organization. So how do we do that really well? So when employees experience the HR world, their talent opportunities, it's really personalized and it's accurate and they're therefore engaged in it. And you need to build your skills data as a company and not just turn on massive ontologies of skills and have hundreds of thousands of skills running around your organization. So think really hard around how you build that taxonomy and govern it and how you make sure that stays relevant to your organization. And I said it earlier, one of the big shifts we see is when the cultural change happens rather than the data and technology change. How do we get to empowering employees to feel like they are in control, they are owning their skills, and they are owning their career? And back to that point, continuously learning is going to be important to make sure your talent have the right skills for the future. But we also talk about talent flowing to work. Do people sit in a silo, in a team, doing these tasks because that's their job description? Or are we saying, here are the people that have skills, here's the work needs to be done, how do we make sure all the people and all the work get together in the most optimized way? So start thinking about breaking those traditional silos of just thinking about a job, now think about the skills over the job. And finally, we're going to have to transform how HR works and looks. We're seeing a lot of companies, HR and IT teams coming together. There are even examples where the chief people officer is now also the chief technology officer, because we have this notion of redesigning work and it's now the optimal combination of humans and technology. Technology comes from IT, humans HR. How does this come together? So your IT team, if you are living in HR today and that's your job, make sure they become your best friends, probably the CFO as well, but make sure they become your best friends and you work as one system to redesign work and to do this. And think about a digital fabric rather than point solutions. Here's a technology we have that does this. Here's a technology we have that does this. How do you create that as a seamless experience for everyone, and what we call a digital fabric? And then think about reorganizing HR. I'm sure many of you still have an Ulrich model of the 3 pillars, COEs, the service center, business partners. And we need to really rethink that model as we rethink how technology can enable HR. Agentic solutions are enabling us to do a vast amount of the tier 0, tier 1 work without humans touching those experiences. So we've got to think about how we repurpose HR to really think about value and outcomes rather than just what we're delivering, which is my final point, which is about let's link everything we do from a talent perspective to business outcomes. I think if we talk in the language of speed to market, we talk in the language of productivity, we will get far more investment to actually transform as a function in HR or transform how we want to do things if we can achieve that. So I'm hopefully setting up, I'm seeing them in the front and no one's grimacing at me, the speakers that follow, which are an amazing from Randstad, Heineken, Standard Chartered Bank, UBS and Philips, who are all embracing this future talent strategy and the future of work. And I think you will find them really inspiring. So thank you very much for your time. Hopefully that set them all up well to deliver their presentations.